Recently, I looked on Rotten Tomatoes to see what the critic score is for Mrs. Doubtfire. This is one of my favorite comedies. I think it's a classic. So I was very surprised when I saw it only has a 70% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's not that 70% is a bad score. It's fresh, 10% above 60. Not quite 75%, but still a good score. But it's not fantastic, though. I think that a classic comedy like Mrs. Doubtfire should easily have a critic score on Rotten Tomatoes that's higher than 80%. Because I love this film. I really don't have any issues with it. I think that the story here is well told, makes sense. I don't think there are any plot holes. I think all the cast members do a good job, especially Robin Williams. He is so talented. You see that in this movie. The way that he was able to effortlessly switch between being irreverent and being sentimental is very impressive because it's not easy to pull off. I think the way this movie deals with issues like grief and divorce is well done. I like that there are very funny moments in this movie, but there's also an emotional core to it as well that helps to anchor this movie amidst all the chaos. I like that this movie both is a bit cynical, it can be a bit mean-spirited, but also is wholesome at the same time. If you think about Daniel Hillard's actions, he commits crimes during the course of the movie, the most obvious one being contempt of court, because he dresses up as Mrs. Doubtfire so that he can sneak into his own home under false pretenses against the court's orders, which is to only see his kids one day per week. And then at the end of the movie, Daniel puts pepper in Stu's dish despite him being aware that Stu is allergic, meaning he could have seriously injured or even killed Stu, though that doesn't end up happening. So Daniel is constantly mean to this guy Stu who's seeing Miranda. He comes off like a legitimately good guy who doesn't have any nefarious motives. He just wants to get to know the kids better. He actually seems like a good father figure, yet Daniel's constantly mean to him. He, on top of poisoning him, vandalizes his car, throws a lime at the back of his head, and basically says, "Hey, you have a tiny dick." And then, because the movie's a bit cynical, but the way it ends, though, with Daniel and Miranda realizing that the important thing is that we're going to be there for the kids. We both love our kids, so we're going to put behind us all the pain, bitterness from the past, all the arguments back when we were married. That doesn't matter anymore. We're going to co-parent in a healthy way. I think this movie addresses co-parenting in a really good way. It ends in a heartwarming way, where Daniel and Miranda have found a healthy resolution for their conflict. You feel like the family ultimately will be okay, because now the kids are actually seeing Daniel, and on top of that, Daniel and Miranda are not fighting anymore. And the speech that Mrs. Doubtfire gives is heartwarming as well. So this movie manages to balance its tone really well. I think the visuals are good here. The movie doesn't have, amazing, mind-blowing visuals like you'd see in a sci-fi or fantasy film, but the visuals get their job done, and I like the songs are played in this movie, so I think it's great. I think 70% is just too low.